about today then, Kelly?
Well, I was just getting used to my new reality, having kind of moved into some project work at the moment, and suddenly not having 1,000 people pinging me every 30 seconds, and that almost vacuum. It's like, hey, are we sure I'm not missing something? Am I, am I in trying to get used to actually it's okay to just be focused on this task and start a task and actually finish it at the same session. And it's doing my head in a little bit because I'm so used to the constant bombardment. This was my first day kind of working on the project bit, and it's really refreshing and slightly disconcerting because I'm just not used to having breathing room, um, to see something through.
Yeah, I think that's really common. And I was talking with a client earlier who is having a similar experience because she does all of the student data returns and is having a bit of a quiet time at the moment and has that same feeling of like the come down from all the dopamine and the pressure. And actually, I watched a really good, it was quite long, but a really good podcast episode about dopamine, the impact, the effect of dopamine on the body, and it's the interplay of dopamine and addiction. And I feel like actually the productivity drive sometimes can be a bit of an addiction. And so you'll probably find it'll take about 2 weeks to wear off. Then when your dopamine system comes back down, you'll be like, oh, okay, this is what normal life feels like again.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I'm sure my diary will fill up again, but it's just that
Oh,
momentary, you know, recalibration of I'm used to just hurtling along between from fire to fire to fire, and
mm.
suddenly somebody else is looking after the fires. So I don't have to weigh in on everything, where I can just hand things off to somebody else to deal with. And it's I definitely feel like there's a residual chemical imbalance from all of that constant cortisol and dopamine and the adrenaline rush that carries you through the day. And when that suddenly disappears, it's a bit of a shock.
It's a good reset point as well because we do get into like long runs of that where pressure just builds and builds and builds and things get added and added and added and added. And then you have a reset point, like an interruption to that. So for you, it's obviously stepping into this project, or like if you change roles, or if your manager changes, or some structural thing shifts around you, it's an opportunity to reset it and think, hang on a minute, I got into some perhaps some bad habits or some difficult ruts that I want to break away from. So when you have that moment of reset, and I bet that when you finish your project maybe and go to your substantive post again, I purposely didn't use the word back because you won't be. You'll be learning from those experiences and probably take some of those boundaries and some of that space back into your next role. I definitely found in my last job change that I went into it very concertedly with some boundaries for myself that I'd found difficult to to be respected before, and it just felt kind of like when you have that moment of change that you can capitalize on it.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at it as an opportunity to rethink some bad habits, reset those for myself, but also to kind of reset expectations from colleagues who are used to me replying to everything within 5 minutes, and just that doesn't do myself any favors. So I think it'll be good for me and for the colleague who's looking after things, and the other people who will hopefully in the next handful of months get used to going to the right person instead of as we talked about in a previous episode about I'm not Google, but I definitely fall into the habit of doing everybody's investigation for them instead of forcing them to, because I want to be helpful and I want to get it, it's quicker to get it done and all of that. And that conversation around empowering other people to know who to go to in the right team instead of expecting me to solve all of the problems that the in the first instance. So it'll be a great experience and a great reset from my own conscious behaviors.
Mm. We do like to boast about, our productivity when it's really high. That, we say things like, oh, I like a bit of pressure. It makes me do my best work. I'm really efficient when I'm under pressure. And, I've worked in admissions, so come clearing, we do have to ride that wave of adrenaline and buzz, and it is amazing what you can get done in a short period of time, but we always end up shriveled little quivering heaps by the end of it because it isn't sustainable, and everyone wants more of you every year, and it just gets really tough, and actually we're not very good about respecting ourselves for taking a little bit slower time to work through things and to focus on things. We feel like we have to keep squidging stuff in, pack more in, pack more in.
There used to be more natural downtime though. Like
It's just
when I joined HE, like whatever that was, like 17 years ago, you'd have some space in the summer. It was nice. There was like a longer bit over the Christmas period. There were just these sort of natural breaks, and Easter as well typically was quite quiet. And then it's like, no, 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 none of that. We're having summer schools and we're having this and we're having that, and we're like just cramming everything in, and people hold projects over and go, well, we'll do that when it's quiet at Christmas, or we'll do that when it's quiet at Easter or in the summer. I'm like, no, 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 no,
yeah,
stop that. We need the downtime.
yeah.
It's the
Well,
semesterization as well, isn't it? Because we went, oh, look, universities went mostly from having like 3 terms, but also we now have intakes all the time. Previous university I
Mm.
worked at did a postgraduate block intake. So each semester, 3 semesters a year, divided into two. So doing two short, fat, um, 15, 15 credit modules rather to 30 credit modules rather than long, thin ones alongside each other. So they had 6 start points in the year. So it was just, you had
So
induction, like start date, midpoint assessment, and semester assessment. It just was relentless, and so you add that in, and some schools and things. And then speaking for admissions, summer's the busiest time. People are like, did you have nice summer? No, I was working all the hours that God sends, to get you some students. But yes, that sort of, I think the rhythm of the recruitment, we've lost that. It used to just be, I mean, when I started, it was just September and February.
those natural peaks and troughs have just gone, with the I think that concept of the academic year has
So
changed as
distracted
well.
by Fiona going to let the cat
That's all
in.
right. It's fine.
Carry on, Kelly.
Don't worry. Shall I just say that again? Doesn't matter.
you can either say it again, or we can just have some more hilarity on the recording as I'm like letting the cat in.
It was enjoyable watching the cat come in like it was royalty.
Yeah.
But yes, peaks and troughs have flattened out to lots of peaks.
To lots and lots of peaks, one on top of the other. Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely.
mm,
And it's really, really nice to have the opportunities when, something like this, where I'm stepping away to do something else for a short time, that creates that natural boundary, but and headspace. But I guess it's how do we find that headspace? How do we carve out the times when the relentlessness doesn't want to let up? And that's we all need to find those reset moments when it doesn't naturally lend itself anymore to that kind of space.
Well, no, you're right. And I wrote a post on LinkedIn about like things we can do to support managers recently, and the sort of number 5 item was give your managers more space to actually manage, and less of a heavy kind of output, and like specific their workload actually should be managing people. It shouldn't be pushing projects and
mm.
the rest of it. And someone in the comments who is a sort of what I would characterize as middle manager was like, yeah, I'm not really very good at that. And I was like, yeah, but it's not really for you. It's for the senior managers. It's for the people who are taking the strategic decisions, that are creating all of the work that you're responsible for doing, to be able to build in time for your team, for the team that you're managing, to be able to have some downtime, because they don't consider it. They just go, oh, your partner wants us to have continuous intakes. Okay, then that sounds like commercially viable. But they don't think about the sustainability in terms of resourcing that from a headcount or, kind of staff well-being perspective. And I find it really infuriating. And then, people in the comments are like driving themselves around the twist because they're really trying hard to protect their teams. And it's like, but you actually can't do that because you're not in that position to be able to take those strategic decisions that are creating the demand for all the work.
It leads into this phrase people keep dropping in all the time now about asking people to do more with less, which I loathe because it's like, first of all, let's work on doing the same sustainably and efficiently with less, if possible. Asking for more with less is just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
The phrase that gets me hot under the collar is professional commitment, because these days that seems to mean we're going to purposefully make choices about resourcing that will force unsustainable behaviors rather than like a professional, a real professional commitment to getting the job done. It's like, no, you're actually talking about a superhuman effort that cannot be sustained over the long term.
What about your professional commitment to the duty of care to look after your staff well-being? Like, that is also a professional commitment. Not you, the
one, yes.
hypothetical people who are using that phrase.
We keep constructive disruption on track. We keep asking the questions, planting the seeds, throwing these things out there.
I feel like we need to give us an official
an official
end to wrap that. You're gonna wave your mug around.
Hey, thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Everyone will want one. We'll be like, we do merch. You can buy one if you want one.